And folks, I've got a really, really special program for you today. Today we're going to be talking about the art of college radio making. And I have two experts here in the studio with me.
3 if you count yourself.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't want to. Like, you're the station advisors.
You're the star. We're just simply the guests on your show today. Thanks for having us.
No. My guests are the stars. You're the stars today.
See, I'm writing this down so I can learn how this radio thing works.
And that's Micheal Bryant that you're hearing talking. We could talk about the art of sarcasm, actually, because you are a brilliant artist at that. That was actually meant to be totally kind.
Aw. You're just saying that because it's true.
And Micheal Bryant is our KZSC station advisor. And maybe later in the show we can find out why it's O-R instead of E-R. And then with him is the new station advisor. Excuse me. Are you both co-station advising, or is it who's holding the mantle?
Right now, we're sharing one brain.
It is kind of a freakish thing, and that's the good thing about radio is you don't actually get to see the two-headed beast.
Well, let me say what the other.
Oh no, that's right. The camera's on. My God,
I'm ruining radio. Keith Rozendal is now our new I don't know. You explain to us, Micheal. Keith, tell us, what is the moment that's happening right now?
The Vulcan mind meld
is happening.
Yes, and I'm learning where all the bodies are buried, and there's a new story every day that makes me question my choice of taking this job.
Oh no! And I hope he's just taking on the sarcasm from Micheal Bryant as he leaves the wake behind of jokes. And was that true, or was that make me think kind of things?
It seems to be a survival strategy around here, humor and sarcasm.
Keith Rozendal will now soon be the station advisor here at KZSC. And Micheal Bryant has been our station advisor for 14 years. I hear it's the longest that anyone has sat in your position. You've got big shoes to fill. Crazy you, Micheal Bryant, and you're off. You're going into. You're not letting us know, basically.
I'm becoming part of the witness protection program, and
so that no
I'm required by law not to say anything further about my future. I have taken a vow of silence, and I believe the last time that I will be doing a radio show is next Wednesday morning from 6 to 9 a.m. for our dear friend Lonnie, who does the Hawaiian music show. She's having some family issues down in Southern California, so I've been pitching in and helping her out with that program and that time slot, and we wish her and her family the best.
Oh, yes. Lonnie, we wish you the best.
And her father, Leonard, who's actually very sick right now. I think of Leonard a lot today because today in Hawaiian history is King Kamehameha Day. It's the celebration, the annual celebration every year of the king who united the Hawaiian Islands. And I did an interview with Leonard a few years ago about his childhood memories of King Kamehameha Day, where the most important thing to him wasn't so much about the Hawaiian heritage and about the king, but it was about, it signaled the last day of the school year for the kids. And they could go out
to be celebrated
and go watch the parade and the Paniolos, the Hawaiian cowboys on their horses, and it was just a lot of fun. So I have good thoughts in my head for our friend Leonard.
Yes. And so you'll be doing Wiki Wednesdays. Wiki Wacky.
Wiki Wacky Wednesday. Wiki Wiki, which in Hawaiian means fast.
Wiki Wiki.
But it was just so alliterate perfect when I started the program. And then after doing it for a year or two, Lonnie came into our lives, and someone here on campus introduced the two of us, and we hit it off really well. We co-hosted the show for a while, and then she took it completely over, and I started playing music like we just heard a little while ago, that stuff from the Beatles on Thursday mornings.
Here, There, and Everywhere show.
Yep.
Beloved, many saddened. Oh, but it's going on. It's moving on.
It's continuing on.
That's right. We've got a new DJ that you mentored.
Right. Our dear DJ Prudence, who was a student here at UCSC. She's going through graduation ceremonies this weekend.
Oh, congratulations.
And unlike most artists, you Artists on Arts fans will understand this one. Unlike most artists, she actually got a job with her art degree out of UC Santa Cruz. So it pays parents, it pays to send your children to school here. And she's going to stay in the community, and she's going to continue doing the Beatles show on Thursday morning from 6 to 9 a.m. she was a great mentee. She learned really quickly and developed quite a following. She's got a nice style and a very engaging manner, very much like our current host over there who's fiddling with a record player. And people will love her. You know, she's special, and the show, of course, is all about the music of the Beatles anyway. It has very little to do with me. It has to do with this common bond, this connection that I think artists can relate to. I mean, if you go into an art gallery and you see a painting by a great master, and you're staring at it, and you know that people have looked at that same painting for hundreds of years, perhaps, and had their own special feelings about it when they've seen it. It's the same thing with the Beatles. You listen to the music, the artistry of the music always seems to have been in our air. It's almost like it's these particles that are always flying around. There was a time, I know you're too young to remember, but there was a time before the Beatles when music was not as much fun.
You're right. I don't remember. I wasn't born yet.
Right.
But I'm not that much younger.
Well, when I was young...
Because my sister got to see the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show. Right. My mom and my sister. And then it was a few years later that I was born.
Well, I did my last one of these Thursday morning Beatles shows last week, and I played a segment of a radio show I did when I started in college, and that was 40 years ago.
Oh, let's just listen to a little Beatles and come back and then talk about...
Spoiler alert. It's a good story.
Great. And we're back. This is Artist on Art. I'm here with Micheal Bryant and Keith Rozendal. Micheal Bryant is the current station advisor here at KZSC. In case you're not...
With an O.
With an O, which we'll talk about in just a second. In case you didn't know...
I think Keith's going with the E.
Actually, I prefer the O.
Oh, we're going to stay with the advisor with an O, folks. What that signifies, I want to find out. But in the meantime, in case you weren't in the know, KZSC is almost completely all volunteer student college radio station, which is pretty rare. You don't get the student-run college station like you do here at KZSC. It's really the driver. The students are the drivers. You have to take the radio class to be able to be a DJ here at Santa Cruz or at KZSC, and there's a lot that goes with that. But there is one position that is alongside, and that's the station advisor, and that's the only paying job, right? The KZSC. It doesn't matter. But let's just say...
What, you're looking for a check? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Let's see what I got.
I just want to make sure I'm giving you the facts, right? Like, nobody else gets paid except for the station advisors.
It's the only full-time position at the radio station.
Right.
The radio station is a department on campus, believe it or not.
Right. So we are a part of UC, and there is a class, so there's a station, an instructor, and there's also a teacher's assistant that goes with the class. And it's a full-blown class, folks. It's not like an easy, I'm going to get an easy A. Believe me.
What grade did you get?
I don't even remember. I was like,
See, she's
diploma.
editing this part out. Okay.
I hadn't taken a class like that in like 30 years. It was like, what am I doing here?
Did you have those anxiety dreams at night where you're not passing your test?
It wasn't that bad, but I did have to study. That's all I can say. Yeah.
Good.
Which, as a grad student, you're like, don't I just read a book and write a paper? But no, you got to get the minutia. You got to have it all memorized.
We love minutia.
Yeah.
Have all the
detail-oriented.
Radio has a million things with it, from the FCC, the laws behind it, community radio laws behind. It's just incredible. In fact, it's pretty much changed a lot, hasn't it? Because
yes and no. Yeah.
Micheal Bryant, started...
You're pointing.
Yes, I'm sorry. You started in 40 years ago, which is amazing.
I know.
And so back in the 75, which is or 74 when you started.
Yes. Well, I actually started...
What was radio like?
I started in 72 when I went to college. But in 74... Well, I mean, the biggest change, and I'm just going to fast forward to where we are today on KZSC. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to hear more details, I can't imagine why, but if you want to hear more details about Keith's story and my story, check out today's Good Times. There's
That's right.
Nice article in there. And I want to thank Steve Palopoli and the people at the Good Times for putting that in there. It was very nice to see that.
We love the Good Times.
the technology changes, of course. I mean, I was in radio ushering in the era of CDs where people looked at a shelf that was probably 6 inches long and said, "This is a lot of room for these little records. Do you think we'll ever need more space than this?" Nah, never. And of course, the vinyl here at KZSC, which you hear sometimes, if you hear recording on a music program that sounds like it was recorded in front of a fireplace, it's probably some of the vinyl that we have here that we've collected at KZSC for the last 45 years or so.
We're playing vinyl today.
And well, there you go, right over there. The record player to the CD player to the MP3 player to the new technology with instant messaging and this camera thing pointing at us during a radio show for podcasting, and this I've mentioned this to other of my peers that have been involved on the radio for many, many years, and it seems like now about 70% of what we do while we're doing music presentation on the air is what we might call administrative tasks. We're texting, we're typing, we're answering phone calls, we're filling out forms, and sometimes it becomes a difficult ballet between staying in the flow, the moment of the musical artistry that you're trying to craft together. I mean, we really don't have much to do while the song is playing, but it's stacking those songs next to each other, the way they interface with each other from the beginning to the end, and sometimes at the same time. I mean, these are art skills that we try to teach students. It's kind of like teaching students how to do pottery or silkscreening or something like this. The art of presenting music on the radio to listeners is an art form, and it's an old art form. And so in the class that you refer to, we spend a lot of time teaching them about records and CDs and how to make these songs fit together and what really should be offering your listeners. I mean, listeners want to know a little bit of information about the music. They want to know a little bit about the person who's putting it on the air. And so if you can find the right way to blend all this together with engaging music, you've got art.
Yes, that's fabulous. And then to be able to pass these skills on is an art as well, which is what the station advisors are here for us.
Well, what was it Woody Allen said? Those who can teach, and those who can't teach Jim. And with radio, it is not something. I mean, a lot of the students in the class, they all work with a peer, a mentor who's doing a current show on the air. That's a big part of the class because you don't get the hands-on experience with equipment until you work with somebody who's doing a show. And some of them catch on right away and are really good at it. I mean, we're even seeing a greater percentage now of students coming into UCSC that are getting involved in the station that come from high school experiences at community radio stations, which I think is fantastic. The fact that a lot of non-college or even some college community radio stations have programs where they allow students access to the airwaves in their teen years. And some of them are doing podcasting before they even come to KZSC or UCSC. So in the years to come, Keith will be highlighting many, many young people with amazing talents that you listeners out there will really appreciate and enjoy.
Yeah, what is it about young people and their creativity? They can step into a technology like this with such a long history and then revolutionize it more than somebody with our experience, I think, is capable of.
Yeah. Nada, you're a young person. Tell us how it works.
Keith and I think, are in the same generation boat from the 80s. We started both in the 80s. But I got my first weekly show after I graduated from college at KLX up at UC Berkeley, which is where I learned and did 5 years there before I got a chance to, we moved and all that kind of stuff. But anyways, I remember using a lot of 8-tracks, which my kids don't know what that is, but they barely know what a record player is, let alone other than a CD, MP3, Spotify. My gosh, I mean, how it's changed. The fact that I remember, in '89, sitting around a kitchen table going, okay, so one day we're going to be able to send each other songs over the internet. Like, it was like, and here it is, We
Wow.
can.
You can do that now?
You can bring all of your.
I better catch up.
You can get all the music. You can get any music. We have the internet changed so much as far as having access to songs. I mean, we had to like scrounge for that like Japanese import, that had the latest whatever.
Record stores have played a big role in my musical education, and collecting records was always the hunt, and you go way out of your way, travel over large physical distances to get these physical objects, and all that can be accomplished with a search now.
Yeah, and even a YouTube video, you can see him play it at a concert. The amount that's opened up. I mean, in some ways it was kind of a cultish kind of thing. Y'all sit around, in your dorm rooms late at night. Oh, let me play this Uma Guma, Pink Floyd. Whoa, blow your mind, And I think there's still some of that, but it's just so much easier to just do it yourself in your own space. It was maybe more collaborative before.
Well, it's a new form of social. Like for me, music is inherently social, and every piece of music that I have has a story with it and a person that I connect it to, or a time in my life, a memory. And I think that's all being facilitated with these new digital but still social, ways of sharing and enjoying music together, and having that moment of shared enthusiasm with somebody about a piece that they haven't heard yet, but oh, I know you'll love it, that sort of thing, still going on.
Well, I think Spotify has done that for me in my life, because my son and my daughter have their accounts and they play their favorite songs that they just found, and so I follow them and I can even see what they're listening to at this moment, which I think is a wonderful thing.
Can I raise an issue?
Keith Rozendal.
I see your issue and I raise yours.
Yeah, put this with Michael. So my first college radio station was KTRU in Houston, Texas, and I was a music director there, and had the classic experience, and I was a lifelong convert at that point. They had a 100,000 watt signal in Houston, Texas.
Wow!
But then the university sold that signal, so they are digital only now. They are streaming only. All the record library, the studios and everything feed into the internet only. Does that make a difference, do you think, Michael, like to the student's experience and to the kind of power of the radio, or is it not necessary to have a terrestrial signal anymore?
No, I mean, if you read about mediums and the difference between broadcasting or podcasting or streaming on the internet, or writing on the internet, or producing art for the internet as opposed to doing it on a canvas or
analog
in person. One of the things that they've noticed recently is that there's a greater interest in things like farmers markets, because you're actually going out and interacting with real people and in an environment which, after being in the cocoon of the internet, I'll call it, you're just craving something that's a little bit more tangible, a little bit more real. And when we talk into these microphones and when we play music and it comes out of your speakers, whether you're in your car or your home, what you're hearing is our voices, our music that we're playing, being transferred into an electrical pulse and then coming out of a speaker. It's like creating sound. And it's a totally different experience than listening with earbuds or on your internet. And there's something about this whole process, even with music in particular. I'm fascinated by the concept of synesthesia. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Where they...
Well, let's talk about synesthesia in just a second. We're going to play a little interlude and talk a little bit. This is a song that was chosen by our incoming station advisor, Keith Rozendal.
KZSC Santa Cruz.
Thank you, Michael. As we got phone calls, people asking questions before we launch into synesthesia.
That's what we call dramatic pause in radio.
Michael called.
All done with a purpose.
Oh, yes, so you can think about it. Really enjoyed that song.
By the way, this is called Artists on Art with your host, Nada.
Thank you, Michael Bryant. And I'm here with Keith Rozendal. Michael Bryant is the outgoing station advisor.
You make us sound like belly buttons, an innie and an outie.
Keith is our innie coming in. Keith Rozendal is our new station advisor. Michael Bryant played the last show that he's going to be, he's going to do one more show next week, Wiki Wednesday, the Hawaiian show. But
As a matter of fact, I just got a text from Lonnie. She's going to be coming and visiting next week, too, to say goodbye together.
Oh. Lonnie's leaving also?
Well, she's back and forth, but she's saying goodbye to me and hello and goodbye to her listeners. And anyway,
aloha.
For fans of the program, by the way, we just started this week as our new program schedule for summer, and it goes all the way until the beginning of October, which is fantastic.
A long one, yeah.
So this long, almost endless summer, we'll have Wiki Wednesday on Wednesday mornings from 6 to 9. This program remains at its perfect time slot on Wednesdays at noon. And for more details, look at our website, kzsc.org. Just go to the schedule page. You'll find all sorts of things.
You're such a professional, Michael Bryant. So this question, Michael called in, and he asked if you both had heard about how the new cars are coming in without radios. What do you think about that?
Well, at the same time, cell phones are coming out with radios. How about that?
There you go.
There was a...
you have the app, too.
Well, beyond that, I mean, there's a chip that's already built into cell phones, apparently, that has a FM band on it. And the idea was that in case of an emergency where you couldn't get the internet signal or Wi-Fi or anything like that, and it uses virtually no battery power, why not just put the FM in there? And so, yes, maybe cars are going away with that. Maybe Sirius is, satellite radio is pretty common in vehicles today. But going back to the cell phone, the mobile devices that everyone seems to be carrying around, they're going to have FM radios in there. So you thought we were getting rid of us, but no, we're back.
And I think there's going to be people are going to miss the local content and the connection with their neighbors and friends and information about things that affect them directly because they're proximate, they're close to them. And so I think this may be a reverse policy at some point because the car is, where most people say they listen to the radio to begin with. And I think they are not just listening for music and music that's chosen by like one person rather than people with all sorts of different levels of experience and enthusiasm and passions, yeah.
Mr. Eclectic Music, Keith Rozendal.
Well, also, I don't know if you've had this experience. I know I have. On a warm day in Santa Cruz, you're stuck in traffic at a light, you've got your windows rolled down, you've got your radio on, and then the person in the lane next to you has their radio on and the window rolled down. It's the same station. You look at each other, and you've got that, knowing nod. Yeah.
You're listening to
tune.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's interesting because you both called radio old, but in new media, digital media, media studies, radio is a very new because it's only been 120 years that we've had the technology, right?
Yes, as far as a form of communication in those kind of statistics, yeah. But with the way technology is moving so quickly today, it is nothing like what it was when I got involved in the 70s, and of course has evolved into, for good and for bad. There's pluses and minuses to both sides of the technology argument. But, to overlook technology would be a bad thing for any artist. I think we all know people who utilize those tools, no matter what art medium they're working in. You can't ignore what's going on today and around you. Mm-hmm. And, this goes sort of sideways into where we left off right before the musical break.
Synesthesia.
It's
it's a tough word.
It's the transference of senses. Some people actually see sound. I mean, they will hear a song and think of it as a color.
Or they taste it.
Or they taste it. And this is one of the things that fascinates me the most about music is because it does have the ability to transcend cultures, languages, any form of communication. You can't even put into words how it makes you feel. and yet other people will have either the same response or something else. You can communicate with other people through music without knowing any other thing in common with them. And a perfect example I'll give you is the woman that you use for your theme song at the beginning, Cesaria Evora. I was at one of her performances in San Francisco when she first started coming to the United States. She was known as the Barefoot Diva from the Cape Verde Islands off the coast of Africa. And yeah, I'm sitting very close to the stage when she's performing, and she's up on stage kind of like a Billie Holiday type figure. She's smoking a cigarette, she's barefoot, she's leaning on the piano, singing these beautiful songs. And she has a small band with her, like you hear on the record when you play it here on the show. And when she's done, someone comes from the wings and gives her a bouquet of flowers. And she says, no. And she doesn't know much English, but she knows that. And then she reaches forward and hands them to me.
Oh.
And I think the reason why is I don't think she was coming on to me. I think what it was is she realized that there was this connection, that I was hearing this music that she was performing. I don't understand much Portuguese at all. I have no idea about her personal background and how tough a life she must have had in the islands over there in a very depressed economy. And here I am, listening to her in person, just enthralled by the sound and what's coming across. There's this relationship between a performing artist and the audience that when you're there and you're experiencing that either as the performer or as the crowd, it is incomparable. You can't put that in a bottle or on the internet and get the same experience.
That's right. So that's the song we played, some Cesaria Evora, and for Keith Rozendal we played the Zombie song, and it was off of the Odyssey and Oracle album. So you want to tell us why you chose that, Keith?
After I got done with the extensive interview process, excuse me,
to get the job.
To get this job.
Congratulations, Keith.
I applied first at the beginning of February and spoke to no fewer than 25 people in the interview process. When I found out I got the job, I splurged, and the Zombies were in town in Houston, where I was staying with my mom. And so I splurged a lot of money and went to see the Zombies, and they played this song, and it just
This is our year.
Got me. Yeah, this is our year. They said, it's a popular song for weddings and things like that, and it just seemed like, at that moment, I'm like, this is a song that I want to be one of the first ones to share with the audience here in Santa Cruz, because it'll set the tone for, this year, and I'm getting my feet underneath me and learning the job. I think it holds a lot of promise, and I'm very excited about what's to come.
Keith Rozendal, how long have you been training with Michael Bryant for this handoff?
What time is it?
Yeah,
it's
June 11th.
2 days after I saw the Zombies, I hopped in my car and drove 4 days straight, all the way from
Houston.
East Texas. Yeah.
Okay, here's the keys, Keith. Yeah, I'll see you around. Bye.
and then 3 days after that, I was here, the 27th of May.
Wow! So it's been under 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And when does it happen?
When does
the
what happen?
Official keys handing over?
When is the summer equinox?
June 21st.
Exactly.
So that's the day.
We've chosen the equinox as the date.
We should do a pagan ritual for it, really. There should be fire and jumping and...
Just an average day at KZSC, really. When
flowers
you think about it.
in our hairs.
Yeah.
And
we got to go out in the trees
sage.
and the fog and...
The mists of Mordor that surround the campus, yes.
Exactly.
But that's when it's all going to happen.
All right. And so, Keith, what's been the biggest surprise from learning of all the different nuances, minutiae, I believe is a word we used earlier, that comes with being the station advisor here at KZSC?
Wow. I think it's some of the stories that Michael's going to share with us. We have planned for the
finale.
Yeah. It's like you don't know what to expect. The job is always going to be different and changing, and sometimes it's a pleasant surprise, and many times it's not so pleasant. And so learning about some of those, and the radio I've found in my years working at KCSB in Santa Barbara as well, another station.
A great station, folks.
And
I listen to it when I'm down there.
The microphone amplifies people's personality and egos sometimes, and creates problems that way. And then, you're managing people who are volunteers. Got to keep them motivated and happy, and they've got to get along with one another. And we've all got important jobs to do around here, and so it can get very I don't know. You have to be very diplomatic, and you have to be very caring of all the people.
Psychologically astute.
Yeah. It's gonna call upon some of my training in psychology, especially at these surprising times.
So some other training that you've had is you're also a science and medical journalist, and have been for many, many years.
Well, in 2008, my father died, and left me some money that allowed me to go back to school for journalism. And this was something I'd always wanted to do. I was the news director at KCSB. We did a local news program, and I've always been interested in the sciences. My initial major at college was astronomy and space physics, and then I switched to psychology, and so this was a chance for me to combine those interests. Always liked writing and producing media, so I learned some filmmaking. I learned all this new digital stuff. Got a chance to go to Cameroon on a reporting trip.
Yeah. You've been traveling with your international medical and science journalism.
Yeah, and it brought me to Santa Cruz in 2010 for an excellent science communication program right here on campus that takes former scientists and shows them how to build up their journalism skills.
Fabulous. And if you folks are interested, you can go to KeithRozendal.com. That's KeithRozendal.com, and you can see some of his work. We're going to take a quick little break, and when we come back, we're going to have the top 10 nutty KZSC stories. Oh, stay tuned, folks.
How can you not fall in love with that voice, huh?
Oh, Cesaria Evora. This is Artist on Art. I'm your host, Nada Milkovich. I'm here today with Micheal Bryant and Keith Rozendal.
Hi.
Our esteemed incoming, outgoing station advisors, our innies and outies, and Micheal Bryant, who has had the title of station advisor for the last 14 years, and he's decided that it's over. It's time to go on. He's been doing radio for 40 years, over 40 years. But we'll still get to hear him next week on Wiki Wednesday.
One last time, I think.
Okay. Hopefully we'll be able to reel him back in a couple more times.
Well, it's nice to wish for things. When I was 7, I wanted a pony.
There you go. So, Micheal Bryant, tell us. You have so many stories. I hope somebody's been walking around with a camera and filming
I hope
you. Because we get a story, as Keith was saying, every day gets a new story. What have been some of the wackiest things, nuttiest KZSC events that you can think up off the top of your head?
The ones I can talk about on the radio.
Right.
That's right, FCC rules.
Okay.
Or not safe harbor time.
Well, besides wacky, unusual is just an everyday occurrence at the station. There's a part of my job description and now Keith's job description that says special duties as assigned. That becomes 90% of what you do every day.
Special duties.
There are aspects of operating a radio station that I had no idea about when I started here and learned on the job. I didn't have the luxury of the extensive overlap that we're having together, Keith and I. And I think he's going to do fantastic for the station. I think the listeners out there will love the way KZSC sounds now and in the future with Keith at the helm and volunteers like Nada here. And so I do encourage people, by the way, to support community radio because this past year, for example, during the month of March when we normally do our on-air fundraising drive, we were called upon by the university to do one of the other things that
Special
we do
duties.
a lot. Yes, is we provide emergency communication in difficult times, and there was a difficult time. There was a strike activity on our campus that lasted several days, and we were constantly providing access information to listeners like you out there, and as a result, we took a financial hit. We didn't do our on-air fundraising drive. We thought this was a more important, a higher calling. And as a result now, it would be a great time. If you've listened to KZSC over the years, if you've enjoyed the programming for the last, for as long as you've listened to the station, the Great 88, I would encourage you and ask that you honor what we've done here and what we continue to do here by making a contribution on our website, kzsc.org. There's a very easy way to pay with a credit card online. Just find the word in large capital letters that says donate and press on that, and it'll walk you through the process in just a couple minutes. But any contribution, of course, will help us keep operating what we've been doing for a long time before I got here, and hopefully for a long time afterwards. It is listener support that makes community radio work, not just volunteers coming in and providing incredible, diverse programming, but the financial part has to be taken care of. And there sometimes is a misconception that the university provides funding for KZSC, which is not the case.
Not at all.
We do our own fundraising. We operate at the as a public service in the public interest, and hopefully the programming we put on the air this week and next week and the weeks to come is something that you appreciate, whether it's the music programming, the talk programming, not a special guest that she has every week. We just ask that you take a moment while you're listening to the show or afterwards to please consider and do make a donation to the Great 88 KZSC online, kzsc.org. You can even call Not after the show, and she'll take a pledge from you right over the phone. Just, we're talking about the old way of doing things. That's it. I mean, somebody calls, they say, I want to donate some money, and we send them a little form in the mail, and it works that way.
And with our volunteer power behind the mic and the lean and mean staff that KZSC has, that dollar goes a long ways to creating a lot of good radio and community service. It's not a luxurious place, but we put everything we can into making ourselves sound better, and that doesn't usually translate into spending a lot of money.
You don't know out there, radio listeners, but Nana actually bakes cookies while she's doing her show. She's checking the oven temperature right now. It seems to be just about right. The chocolate chips are melting. That's good.
I want to get Keith's song for the outgoing Keith Rozendal. He had a CD in his pocket. I'm like, hey, I want to play What's in Your Pocket. And so
that old
a random sample of the music that's passing through.
Is that
my
a CD
ears.
in your pocket, or you're just happy to be here?
And so I'm like, what's in Keith Rozendal's pocket? And one of my best friends in college was Scott Rozendal. Anyways, that's
well,
fine.
he's no relation to Stephen Rocha, who is a financial advisor in San Francisco. But I have a quote that I've kept with me in my address book from Stephen that's helped me a lot while being here at the station. And no, it's not what you think, because I'm going to read it to you, and you might find the inspiration for it as well. Yeah, he was at a dinner that was honoring him and his work in nonprofit organizations, and Stephen was quick to say, work for a cause, not applause. Live a life to express, not impress. Don't strive to make your presence noticed, just your absence felt. And I think that's really what we try to do here, is we let the programming and the programmers tell their stories, use their creativity, and help define part of the cultural fabric of Santa Cruz with what we've done at KZSC. And I know for those of you out there who have supported the station over the years, I want to personally thank all of you for helping us realize what we've done to this point and with the work we have left to do.
I want to also take this opportunity to say thank you to you, Michael Bryant. We've come so far in under your tutelage. We're the most listened to college radio station by the website Radio Locator. You have so much accomplished during your tenure here. We're a really well working machine. I just got off of being a year on the program review committee, and things are professional here. It is a student-run place, but the students here are just top-notch. They bring their best game to it, and their love and passion is shown through it. And had it not been for the wonderful advice, your constant advice, your constant consistency.
Whether you want it or not, that's what they say.
Whether it was happy to hear or not, you were there for us, and you gave us what we needed.
Thank you.
And it was really such a pleasure to get to know you and be here with you during your time. And now Keith Rozendal is taking over. But like I said, you've got some great shoes to fit here. And
well, and my besides learning all the details of the job,
they're very nice shoes.
Those are nice shoes.
Made in Hawaii.
It's for me, and I mentioned this in my job interviews. Was like, it seems like the station from afar. I was listening on the web stream and things like that, and looking at all the web stuff. It seems like it's operating very well. It seems like the volunteers are happy and motivated, and the students are, like you said, top notch. And sometimes you gotta say, hey, are you paying attention to your classes and things like that? They're so dedicated to the station.
They're here all the time.
So really, my main goal is to preserve what is here and what's very special here. There's 45 plus years of culture here, and it's kind of well matured and a thing that our listeners really support and get behind, and so there's no reason to go mess around with that.
But there's always room for improvement, Keith.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Michael, we've got 2 minutes. Give us one of the nuttiest things that's ever come to you from KZSC.
Well, let's see. How about I don't know if I could tell the story about Madam X in 2 minutes, but we had a very nice classical music show on about 10 or 15 years ago. And at that time, KZSC, talk about old, we were turning the station off the air at night because we didn't have a human being sitting here. So our engineer and I came up with a plan with a way to operate the station remotely overnight. As a matter of fact, you hear the benefit. Late night listeners hear it now. It's on usually from about midnight till 6 a.m. Anyway, we had this pledge drive, and one of our student classical programmers said, I got a call from this woman. She didn't want to give me her name or phone number, but she wanted to give us money. Okay. And so a day or so later, she actually called and started talking to me on the phone, and I asked for her name, and she wouldn't give it to me. And I said, how about if I call you Madam X? And she looked over the phone, she paused for a minute, and she said, oh, I like that. And so Madam X and I started talking, and I told her what it would cost and for the various pieces of equipment to make this happen. She didn't want to make a general donation to the station. She wanted to make something specific happen. And I sent a pretty detailed list to a P.O. box somewhere. And in about 2 weeks, I got a check from a foundation that Madam X apparently was part of. She still kept her name anonymous for the full amount of what we needed, and that's the result of what we have overnight available to listeners today. Thank you, Madam X, wherever you are.
Thank you, Madam X, and thank you, Michael Bryant and Keith Rozendal, for coming and spending your lunch hour with me today and our listening.
Were those cookies
audience
done yet?
Yeah, thank you, Nada.
Yeah, I got the MIAs coming up. Okay. That was in his pocket.
And don't forget, today, in today's edition of The Good Times, you'll find a nice article about Keith and a little something about me in there as well. So
wonderful.
Check that out, today's Good Times here in San